Welcome to On the Bubble Podcast, episode 82. I'm your host, Bossa J. Witta, and with me is my co-host, Yuki Lee Bender. Today we're going to be doing a first impression on Rosetta, finally a new set for coming up for Worlds and the world premiere coming up as well. So we don't have all the spoilers yet, but I think we'll start off by just talking about all the heroes, and we did get a bunch of it this week, so we'll be talking about as much as we can today. And that's probably just going to be the Earth and the Lightning cards tonight. But before we do that, we haven't had an episode for a week. What have you been doing so far?
I've been playing a lot of Deadlock, which is a Valve MOBA. It's sort of like Dota, but it's a shooter. That's been a lot of fun, and I played a fair bit of. I played two Living Legend. No, I played one Living Legend skirmish and a Blitz skirmish. I played Zen in Blitz. I went 5-0, and then I lost in top 8 to Arachne Solitary Confinement. In top 4, there was all 3 Arachne Solitary Confinements that showed up. Then that deck did like pretty decent. That deck's pretty good. Did you know that Bonds of Agony with Go Again is pretty scary?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of hard to block, and if you make a mistake blocking it or not blocking it, you can kind of lose the game, huh?
Yeah, I got 2 Blood Rots turn 0 from Spreading Plague, and then I got double just nicked to die.
Yeah, that sounds fair, right? Huh?
Yeah, pretty good. It was like the blue Art of Desire Mind, and it was just like double just a nick. I gain 2 life, I draw 2 cards, and I'm like, And then it was like Codex, and I was like, we don't win these.
That part of town usually plays Blitz a lot more than we do anyways, right? So I guess that was kind of known to them beforehand?
I think a lot of people are just playing like kind of fun stuff. Apparently there was like a deck tech online that a bunch of them saw. I don't know about all of them, but some of them. And then I still think that Zen is like pretty clearly the best deck by quite a bit in Blitz. But yeah, if they get there, they get there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. It's Blitz. You can just always play Rhinar and just kill them on turn 1.
Yeah.
I was gonna go to some of these events, but I just kind of forgot that it was like that weekend, and I was just like home doing not much. I checked the Discord maybe like the night of, and on the Sunday actually, just checked the Discord on Sunday, and I'm like, there people were talking about like, oh, who won, and like, what won, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, wait. That means I missed this season's skirmish, at least locally, because we don't have any more locally anymore, right?
I think there's like one more like somewhere at a store that doesn't usually run Fab, which is interesting, but I don't know too much about it. Yeah, I think you missed most of it at the very least. It was pretty fun. I hadn't really been playing Flesh and Blood too much for the last little bit, taking a little bit of a break, and yeah, it's been good to get back into it. The Blitz event was fun. The Living a Legend event, though, was really, really fun. I played Icelander for that one. Something very, very close to the Battle Hardened list. I might have tweaked the numbers of cards ever so slightly, but it was basically the Battle Hardened list. I think I fit in like more Arcane Barrier and Energy Potions and cut some cards down to 2-ofs. I went 3-1 in Swiss, losing to Original Prism. And then it was a cut to top 4. There was 13 players that came out, so pretty decent turnout. And then I beat a Zen in semis, and I lost to the same Prism in finals. That was Eric K. Yeah, Prism very hard for Icelander if the Prism just decides that they're going to run AB2 and block a lot and play a bunch of auras and then just hit you with their Kodachis.
That's fair.
If they like take damage and let you pop them, you have a chance. I mean, the other way you still have a chance is just you really need stuff to line up. It's hard. It was like kind of close. I had a life lead for like quite a bit of time. I grinded through 3 Genesis and I was like still up on life, and I'm like, just give me a scour. I need to scour all these 0 costs and then we're good. And then I got it way too late. I got the scour when I was at 1 life and he had the merciful retribution.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're basically locked out of the game at that point, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I have AB1, but it's still doomed.
That's fair. Okay, then do you wanna move right into talking about Rosetta?
Yeah, let's do that. We got a ton of stuff to cover, lots to do.
So I guess to start off, we're gonna start off by talking about each of the token heroes and their token weapons because we haven't done that on the podcast yet. And let's start off by talking about the elemental runeblade hero, which is Florian, and he is essence of earth. So this is a earth hero. And he reads, if there are four more Earth cards in your bench zone, Florian gets, if you would create one or more aura tokens, instead create that many plus one of each of those tokens.
And notably, his CC counterpart wants 8 or more Earth cards, but we're going to be primarily focusing on limited this episode because we mostly just have commons and rares. It's a little hard to comment on CC without the M's and the L's. So mostly a limited focus, but if something really stands up for constructed, we can mention it as well.
I guess we'll talk about his weapon right away. It's Rotwood Reaper, and this is a once per turn action, 2 resources attack. And it says if you played or created an aura this turn, this gets plus 2 power. And it starts with a base power of 2. So it can end up attacking for 4 if you've done what it wants to do.
Yeah, pretty good. Two for 4 weapon is like a really good rate, especially in kind of modern flesh and blood limited weapons, which have been tending a little bit on the weaker side for the most part. So if you're able to turn this on, the 2 for 4 is great. And Florian does have like a ramp up time to get his ability on. So I do think that he will have to be somewhat defensive, which I guess like a bit of a spoiler, a lot of the earth cards do have life gain to help facilitate that game plan. But once you have it on, getting an extra rune chant on everything is really good. Like we have like Mordred Tide and Viscerai, which is very, very strong. And yeah, you don't have the Viscerai hero ability to combo with it, but just as like a passive that you always get, it'll add up pretty fast.
Typically the tokens that you get to make in this set are gonna be, I guess we haven't talked about the tokens yet, so we just mentioned the 2 tokens in this set that Florian will be able to make, and that's gonna be the
Rune Chant. So extra Rune Chant is always worth 1 arcane. Pretty hard to block. There is like the macro that they spoiled that you can pay 2 to prevent a damage, but other than that, there's like a few other ways to prevent arcane, but it's very limited. There's no AB in the set, and then so that's like quite good. You get 1 damage that's like very evasive, and then
oh, there it is. The other token is called Embodiment of Earth. This is the one I wanted to start off with, but I forgot the name of. And this one says non-attack actions you control gets plus 1 block value while defending, and at the beginning of your action phase, destroy it. So it's kind of interesting. Breyer originally was able to create like a bunch of embodiment of Earths, and that was definitely a problem. And they errated Breyer, so then it only made 1 embodiment of Earth tokens. But it looks like they went back and made Florian be able to make 2 embodiments of Earths now.
yeah, that is very, very powerful. Even if you're blocking with like 2 blocks, making them into 4 blocks, and then potentially, you might be able to block with like 2 cards for 4. That is a lot of extra value. So I think turning on Florian's hero text will be huge, and I guess that sort of positions Florian as like a little bit of a like longer, like he's going to want to play a little bit of a longer game, right? So that he can get his hero ability on, then get as much value out of his hero ability as possible. He's probably not like the aggro deck of the format. He's probably more control-y, maybe playing the like traditional guardian role in some sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess you already mentioned it a little bit, but let's talk about Sanctuary of Aria really quickly as well. So this is gonna be a Rosetta macro. This is gonna be a token that's in the set that everybody gets to start with, and it has a reminder text. You start the game with this in the arena when playing a Rosetta limited format. I'm not sure if you're allowed to forget it or if they're gonna force you to not forget it. At least at the your pre-release, I'm pretty sure at the world premiere, even if you don't present it, they'll probably give it to you as long as you haven't used it yet. But this card will read instant, pay 2 resources, prevent the next 1 damage that'll be dealt to you this turn by a source of your choice. Destroy this at the beginning of the end phase. Which means that you get to use Sanctuary of Aria as many times as you want during that turn, or once. How do I say this? You get to use Sanctuary of Aria as many times as you want if you've activated it once, right?
Yeah, you can only use it on one turn, but on that turn you get as many activations as you can pay for that you want to pay for, I guess. This is the same effect as Helio's Miter, which we saw in Uprising, but that was on a headpiece, and everybody like it took an equipment slot was the big change. But what's really nice about this is it doesn't need an equipment slot, and at least in Uprising, the way that equipment mostly functioned was to stop turn 0 arcane damage and potentially allow you to do a little bit of filtering. And that was kind of like largely it. Maybe if you're going to take arcane at the end of the game and is lethal, you can stop it that way as well. But in general, like 2 resources for 1 damage isn't a great deal, but it does sort of prevent like, a wizard just doing a bunch of arcane damage and you start the game at 15 or whatever.
Yeah, it was at least in Uprising when we had the helmet piece that was like exactly the same as this. It what if you didn't use it on turn 1, it was kind of hard to find a spot to use it later, right?
Yeah, you basically wouldn't use it unless you had to stop arcane and that arcane was lethal. That was like the other spot that you would use it. But like you never like wanted to be using this outside of turn 0. But just starting with it in play for free is pretty good. Also notably, like you don't need a target for this. It just prevents the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you this turn by a source of your choice. So you can potentially pitch into this to filter some of your cards. Your opponent, of course, can also do that. But yeah, something you can do with this card.
I don't think you can float this ability, right? You need to choose your source when you activate this ability.
Oh, that's true. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. It will work if they have a weapon, is what I'm thinking of. You can like potentially use it on their weapon, but you can't use it to like just float it. Yeah, my mistake.
Yeah, you won't be able to just float it. They might clarify this at the rules notes later, but at least from how I interpreted the card, the source must be in zone where you can target it.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, you're correct about that. So you can use that against the rune blades, but not.
You can't use it against like a wizard weapon because they typically amp.
It wouldn't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how it's templated, but I think we'll get to know it better once the set actually comes out. I guess before we move on, did you want to talk about at least the split card rare that each hero gets?
Yeah, we can do that. So for Florian, we have Arcane Seeds and Life. This is a 0 cost 3 block. Arcane Seeds is a Runeblade action. It says create a rune chant, and it has go again. And then Life is an Earth instant that says gain 1 life. So the way that the meld cards work is there's a reminder text on it. You can play one half or the other half or both halves if you wish. And each of them costs whatever the resource cost at the top is. In this case, it's 0. So you could play this as a instant to gain a life. You could play this as an action to make 2 rune chants gain a life and has go again. And in terms of typing, it is both a non-attack action and an instant and an earth card and a runeblade card. It's all of those things.
Looks at every when you're looking at a mailed card, it looks at basically all of the typings that this card could have, and then that is what it is when it's in your hand. And I think when it's on the stack, it's only the side that you choose to play.
Yeah, and if you play both halves, I believe they both get their own thing. Like you'll resolve the instant first. They all have like an instant half and an action half, so you'll resolve the instant first.
Okay, then let's move on and talk about the next Rune Blade, which will be Aurora. So Aurora is, I guess, to start off, she's an elemental Runeblade hero. She has the essence of lightning, so she is a lightning hero. And her ability is once per turn instant. You pay 2 resources, create an embodiment of lightning token. Activate this only if you've played a lightning card this turn. It only says lightning card, so it doesn't matter if it's an action card or an instant for her ability.
And because it is an instant, you don't need an action point to do this. So you could attack, I don't know, with a 4 for 0 that's a lightning card, and then pitch 2 into this, even though it doesn't have go again, and get that embodiment of lightning for your next turn if you wish.
That's actually good to know. Thinking of it pretty like basic or simply, Aurora is just pay 2 to give a card go again, right? Like that's basically what this card does.
Yeah, and you can bank it to the next turn.
Do you think this means that you want to be playing like one costs with her, like one cost lightning cards, so then you can like pay two more to put the embodiment of lightning?
No, I think you want zero costs, and the big reason you want zero cost is her weapon, Starfall. So we can talk about Starfall. This is a lightning runeblade weapon. It's a two-handed sword. It attacks for one and has a once per turn action. Pay one resource to attack. If you played a lightning card with this turn, this card's attack gets +1 and go again. So long as you played a lightning card, this is two go again for one resource, which is a fantastic deal. And I think Aurora can play like the curve of play a lightning card. Ideally, it has go again, like maybe from an embodiment from last turn. Then you can swing the sword for two, and then you can make an embodiment and either end your turn there, or use the embodiment to keep going, or you could go like 4-2-4 and then make an embodiment for your following turn. It's like it's very flexible, but I think you're like pretty incentivized to play zero cost because Starfall is just so efficient.
Yeah, so it does sound pretty efficient. So you pitch a blue, you attack with a zero cost for four. Hopefully, it has go again from your previous turn. Attack with Starfall has go again, and end with another zero for four. And then you have two resources floating for Aurora's ability that sets you up to do that again for the next turn. That might be just like a game plan that Aurora wants to do to go like 4-2-4, 4-2-4, 4-2-4 every single turn with one pitch card, and then block with one card. That seems to be like a very very strong play style. Like we saw kind of Zen do the very similar stuff in limited.
Yeah, and she could potentially build on that. Like she has instants that let her go wide. She could make the embodiment before playing the second four, so she could do like 4-2-4-4, for example. So she has a lot of ways to do that. You could also potentially play a couple two costs in her and have a turn where you opt not to make an embodiment, but you end on like a 2 for 6 to push a little more damage if there's like some generic 2 for 6s. So I think like cost wise, that's kind of where you're looking for Aurora is probably zeros and twos.
I guess we can talk about her meld card as well. So her meld card is going to be Burn Up into Shock, which is a meld card. It's a Runeblade action lightning instant. And I guess we'll talk about Burn Up first. It is the next time an attack you control hits a hero this turn, deal 4 arcane damage to them. Go again. And then Shock is deal 1 arcane damage to any target. So this also costs 0. It looks like this might be a trend for at least the Runeblade side, is the rare meld card is going to be 0 cost, so it's going to be pretty easy to do both sides.
Yeah. So this card's pretty incredible. It's a lightning card so it turns on Aurora's ability. It blocks for 3, and if you are able to get the hit, it is a 0 for 5. But we just talked about how Aurora is going to be pretty good at going like 4-2-4. So I think as long as you can get those breakpoints, Burn Up Shock is going to be really good. Notably, it also works on attacks. So your Starfall will also trigger Burn Up Shock, which is potentially quite annoying to defend out. So I think that a good Aurora deck will be able to push this through very easily. And I think in many ways, these cards are kind of like signposts for what the hero is doing. So Florian can make Rune Chance gain some life, play a longer game. Aurora, more aggressive, wants to make lots of chain links and get her attacks to hit with breakpoints.
Oh, I guess one thing that we should note is that these cards like Burn Up and Florian's Arcane Seeds, the meld cards, only come in red, right? So there isn't a yellow or a blue versions of.
Yeah, it's just one pitch. So
Yeah, we don't know how the pack collation is still gonna look, right? Like it'll be kind of cool if you always get one meld card in every pack.
maybe. I wonder if you will, because it's like rares, right?
Yeah, but that could also just be like a rare plus slot, right? So you always get one meld card, and it's gonna be like one of these 4 cards for each of the heroes. So like it's already helping you do the thing that it wants you to do. I might be wrong. They might just be a regular rare in the set, but I think that also just make a cool like limited experience to be able to see if if someone like picked up a meld card or not. That'd be kind of cool to know too.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I guess we'll have to see. I could see it. I think the sigils may also have their own slots. So yeah, there's lots of things they could do with pack relation.
Oh yeah, makes sense. Let's keep on going and talk about Verdance. So she's going to be our first wizard to talk about. She's an elemental wizard hero. She has 20 life as a young one. And She is the essence of Earth, so she's an Earth hero. She reads, if there are 4 or more Earth cards in your banish zone, Verdance gets whenever you gain life during your turn, you may deal 1 arcane damage to any opposing target.
Yeah, so similar to Florian, Earth has this theme of getting Earth cards into the banish zone. We'll be talking about that when we look at the Earth card pool shortly. But yeah, playing a long game, right? You want to be gaining life, presumably, because you want some cards with life gain to trigger her ability, which lets you play a long game. And then you reach the point where your life gain starts also pinging your opponent for 1, which again should be a lot of extra value added onto your turn. And we talked about how arcane damage is probably quite good in this set. There's limited ways to block it. So Verdant's also playing sort of like a controlling role, I think.
That makes sense. And let's talk about her token weapon. It's Staff of Verdant Shoots. This is a 2-handed staff, and it reads, once per turn action, you pay 3 resources to amp 1. Go again. And it says, when 1 or more Earth cards are pitched this way, the next time you deal arcane damage this turn, create an Embodiment of Earth token. So, Embodiment of Earth in Verdansk is kind of nuts, right? Because she gets to play a lot of the wizard cards that naturally just block for 3, but with the Embodiment of Earth, which means that they almost all block for 4.
Yes, yeah, I think it's very powerful. So I think like you can kind of see how Verdance might want to play like 2-card hands of use the staff and play like a shock. There's a whole bunch of shocks, 3 for 0 arcane spells. But we'll talk about that next week when we do the wizard cards. But there's a lot of those in the set, so I think she can play into the pattern of if she wants to hold 2 cards, she can. She can pay 3, amp with go again, and play the shock, and then so that's like 4 damage off of the 2 cards, which is not great, but then she gets to get 2 extra value by blocking with 2 cards on the following turn. So yeah, pretty solid weapon. If you block with 2 cards and you get the amp one, that's like 3 go again for 3, which is very, very, very good. So I think so long as you're like in a spot where you're able to block multiple times, you're going to get pretty good value out of this. And dealing arcane damage is kind of like a nice way to ensure that you will have the opportunity to block multiple times because arcane damage is hard to block.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of sad that we don't really have. Actually, I guess it's better for the game. You know what? Scrap that. I was gonna say that we can't just like stall people out and like deck people this way, but it's a good thing that we can't do that. Never mind.
You might be able to. You might be able to. We'll talk about it next week. You might be able to.
Okay, and then let's talk about her meld card then at rare. It's pulsing aether and life. So this one does cost 1 to play each side, and pulsing aether reads wizard action, deal 4 arcane damage to any target, and life is gain a life. But what's really important here that this costs 1 is that both sides is gonna cost 1. So to play both sides, you need to pay 2 resources for this card, or 1 resource for just one of the sides. Which means life gets kind of expensive, right? To tack onto this card.
Yeah, it still works off a single blue, which makes it kind of okay. But so it's kind of like a 1 for 4 or a 2 for 5, but then like one of that value is gaining life instead of dealing damage. So it's sort of like a something between like a scalding rain and a voltic bolt in terms of its efficiency, which is fine. It's a little bit awkward. Like I'm not quite sure how you're going to use that last resource to get like full efficiency, but I guess if you have her ability online, then this would be like 4 arcane, gain a life, deal 1. So it's like a 2 for 6, which starts to be pretty decent. This one seems a little less impressive to me than some of the other ones, though. But maybe just like dealing a bunch of arcane damage is really good. I don't know.
That makes sense. But I think, once you get Verdance's ability online, then this card seems really, really good, right? It's like
Yeah.
5 arcane and gain a life. The arcane is split into 2, but we don't have an arcane barrier in this set, at least as far as I know. So
Yeah, I think the I think in some interviews they've said there's no AB in this set. So
okay, yeah, perfect. Then it's the arcane damage being split up here isn't gonna matter too much, at least in limited, and it's a very efficient card once you get Verdance's ability. So the question is like, how easy would it be to activate Verdance's ability, right? So same with Florian is like 4 banish cards. I think we'll talk about that once we talk about the Earth cards, but yeah. It'll be a question to ask.
I am curious to see like how hard it is to get that ability online before, I don't know, Aurora, for example, attacks you a bunch and deals a bunch of damage and, like puts you too far behind. But you do have the life gain to kind of offset it. So it's interesting. It's a cool theme. I think it might play very well, but we'll have to see.
Then the last hero in this set, his name is Acilio? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yep, Acilio.
This one is another elemental wizard hero, and the young one has 18 life. This is the only hero in the set that has less life than 20. His ability is once per turn instant, you discard an instant and you draw a card, and he's an essence of lightning. Man, what a clean line of text for his ability.
And I think as far as we know, this just looks like card selection. He is kind of incentivized to play some instants. I think that will become apparent even as we're doing the spoilers. But this will just give him some card selection and maybe some ability to draw, to block. It does also mean he can potentially get to second cycle faster if there is something that you want to pitch stack, which is kind of cool. But if you're discarding instants, you are going to be running up against fatigue. So you do need to be careful to make sure that you're, balancing that and not going through your deck too fast. Notably, also because it's an instant, you can do it on your turn and your opponent's turn. So you can potentially like redraw 2 different cards per turn cycle, which is pretty powerful. Like has a real deck cost, but it is pretty powerful, the card selection.
Yeah, that's actually a lot of cards you get to see. Like, this game already you get to see a lot of cards of like 4 cards a turn, but Acilio gets to kind of look at 6 cards a turn. That's like more than Dash IO.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, she maybe gets more with like the boost, but it's a lot. It is a lot of cards per turn.
And let's talk about his weapon then. This one was spoiled very early, but it's called Volzar the Lightning Rod. And it says, if you control an aura permanent with sigil in its card name, this costs 1 less to activate. Once per turn instant, pay a resource, amp X. X is the number of lightning cards you've played this turn. So it kind of rewards you for playing multiple lightning cards in one turn.
Yeah, exactly. I think Acilio is also going to be an aggressive leaning deck. You kind of have to be if you're using his hero ability because you kind of like turbo through your deck, so you need to kill them. But amping a bunch of arcane damage and when there's limited ways to prevent arcane damage does seem like a pretty reasonable win con. So you can maybe imagine some of the like similar go wide lightning stuff that Aurora is doing. You don't get the embodiments of lightning quite as free, but if you're able to play a few lightning cards, amp, play a zap for 5 or 6, like it could be pretty strong.
Yeah, and it's kind of unpreventable damage, right?
Yeah.
Then let's talk about his meld card at rare. It's Comet Storm and Shock. And notably, this one costs 2. And Comet Storm reads deal 5 arcane damage to any target. And then Shock is the same, it deals 1 damage to any target. So to play both sides of this card, it costs 4. It's significantly more than all the other meld cards that we've seen so far.
Yeah, so I think most of the time this is just going to be like 2 for 5 arcane, which probably does close games pretty reasonably well. And then you can even potentially, I think you can potentially like, you can lean into it when you want to end the game. I guess you can also use his weapon with this, even if you don't have a sigil. Like you could pay the 1 for Volzar, right? Amp X, where X is the number of lightning cards you've played this turn. So yeah, we'll see that you've played Comet Storm Shock, and then the amp will apply to Comet Storm while it's on the stack. We already know it works that way because Kindle works this way.
Yes, but that means you have to pay 4 for Comet Storm Shock, and then 1 more for Volzar. So that'll be 5. Yeah, 5 resources, and it can do 6 plus 1. So it'll be 7 damage. So if you have like 1 more 1 cost with Go Again Lightning card, then they'll make this Volzar amp pretty... It will do a lot of damage.
Yeah, you can maybe kill people like kind of out of nowhere. So I think most of the time if it's early, you'll be playing this as a 2 for 5. But yeah, you can close some games with this. You get a lot of reach, which if you're going through your deck very quickly, that seems...
Imagine arsenaling Comet Storm Shock and then just like being able to play, let's say, like a 0 cost Shock from a different meld card, and then playing Comet Storm using Volzar. That's kind of a lot of damage, right? Like that's like almost 8-9 damage. That's
he doesn't have access to a 0 cost Shock though. There's all the all the heroes get one rare and one M that they can play, and that's it because they're like dual typed. They're Wizard Lightning or Wizard Earth or whatever. So Aurora has Shock on her card, but it's a Runeblade card, so I said like it won't be able to play it.
I see, I see. No, that's unfortunate. I guess you have to do something like Fry or something.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So that is all of the heroes that exist in the set. Do you want to move on to talking about the talent cards? So the Earth and Lightning cards next?
Yeah, we can do that. So first up, we have the equipment Helm of Lignum Vitae. This is a Blade Break 1 headpiece, and it says if there's 4 or more Earth cards in your banish zone, this gets +1 defense. Notably, it is also an Earth card itself, which is going to be really relevant for Decompose, a mechanic we'll cover shortly, which cares about having Earth cards in your discard in order to get them into the banish. So this card is sort of like both a payoff in that once you have your hero ability online with the 4 Earth cards, it blocks for 2, which is great. Or you can just use it as Iron Rot, which is still pretty good, and then it fuels these kind of Earth cards and helps you get to your hero ability faster. So I think this helm is really, really strong.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think it depends on how well your deck can decompose well,
Mm-hmm.
but once if you make a deck that wants to decompose, then you really want these equipment pieces so you can fuel up your earth cards faster. And we'll talk about well grounded as well, which is the earth equipment leg piece. This just reads instant destroy this and prevent the next 2 damage that'll be dealt to you this turn. And activate only if there are 4 or more earth cards in your banish zone. So a big difference between well grounded and the helm piece is that the leg piece doesn't really help you turn on the hero abilities because you need to get 4 first. I guess it's not the same for constructed though, right? Because
Yeah, constructed you need 8. So theoretically, if you wanted to play this in constructed, it could also help you get towards your hero ability once you have 4. So like if you're like halfway, you can use it to like accelerate to the second part, which could be meaningful, honestly. I could see that being really important. And 2 block on a foot piece that is like really powerful. Notably, the way this is worded to prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to you this turn, it doesn't care about the source. So if there's 2 rune chants, this will stop 2 rune chants. If there's 2 attacks for 4 and you block like 3 and 3, it will prevent the 1 and the 1. It's kind of like the old hymn Earth React line of text where you just have like the 2 prevention that floats until you take damage. So pretty powerful.
I just realized Oldham can play this card, right?
Yeah, if you wanted to.
Yo, that's an upgrade. Well grounded is good and wait, no, but we can't get 4 cards of banish.
Yeah, he'll just play the Quicken Boots.
Yeah, Civic Steps is still good. Okay, never mind. I got a little excited and then I realized we don't decompose in that deck.
I had the same thoughts about some other card. I forget. I was like, oh no, Oldham. And then I'm like, wait, it doesn't matter.
Well, it's only Living Legend anyways, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I guess we'll move on. We're gonna skip all the Majestics that's spoiled so far. We're only gonna be talking about the rares and the commons. Oh, and I guess we haven't mentioned this yet, but we are just going on February.net, and they have a spoilers tab that lets you look at all the spoiled Rosetta cards so far, and we're just going down the list on there. So if you wanted to follow along, the best thing for you to do will be to go to February.net and just scroll down along with us.
Yeah. So first up, we have Earth Form. This is a rare. It comes in red, yellow, and blue. The red is a 3/7 Earth attack action that blocks 2. And when this hits, create an embodiment of Earth token. Card's fantastic. 2 card 7s. This has been good. This has just become like a classic limited stat line that they keep reusing, and I think for good reason. It's very, very good. And the hit effect of making embodiment of Earth seems really strong, especially since the Earth heroes kind of want to be a bit more defensive to get their hero ability online. So Earth Form just seems like a great way to, present some damage that's 7's like a lot of your life. That's a third of your life total. And then on top of that, if you hit, which you likely will, you can defend better, and then you also get an Earth card because you played Earth Form into your discard. So this just seems really, really good to me.
Yeah, Earth Form usually a 3/7 doesn't really have a on hit, or like we saw the wager cards from a couple sets back, but that also gave like your opponent the choice and like a benefit if they blocked it out. Earthform is just like an on hit that's like kind of good. We haven't really seen like a rare like 347 on hit that like kind of makes your opponent miserable. This card is kind of insane.
We have Blanche, and Blanche was very good. So yeah, and this has like a type too. So like I think this card's really powerful.
You know what? I did forget about Blanche. Yes, that card was miserable. They're both rares. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, they're both powerful. So the next card to talk about will be Summer's Fall. This card's the 2 cost for 6, blocks for 2, and it just reads Decompose. When it attacks, you may banish 2 Earth cards and an action card from your graveyard. If you do, put up to 1 target aura on the bottom of its owner's deck. So this is the first time we've seen Decompose as a mechanic. And Decompose looks like a mechanic where you have to banish exactly 2 Earth cards and an action card of your choice. And what's relevant here is you could technically banish 2 Earth cards and a Earth action card as well. So you can get like 3 Earth cards in your banish stone right away if you really wanted to. And there might be like a mini game of like choosing when to banish 3 Earths here, or like only 2 Earth cards and keeping an Earth action in your graveyard to make decomposing a second time easier. And you get a benefit when you decompose as well, right? So like this card has to decompose to be able to do something.
Yeah, you can always play it as a 2 for 6. It is optional, but you don't get the put 1 target on the bottom of its owner's deck unless you decompose. And the effects vary, but all the decompose is the same. Banish 2 Earth cards and an action card. I think in limited, I think you will always want to banish 2 Earth cards and a non-Earth action if you have the choice to. Just because I think that the only breakpoint on this that really matters is 4, and I don't think that there's any Earth cards that we've seen that go into banish besides like the decompose effect. So you always need to play 2 decomposes to get there. So I think that just like having more Earth cards so you can do future decomposes easier is going to be pretty much always correct. Maybe there'll be a card that will banish and there'll be some like niche scenario where you don't, but I think for the most part you're going to prefer to save the Earth card so you can decompose more.
That makes sense. That makes sense. There might be like a mythic or some kind of build around that changes this, but at least for as far as we know, that there's no need to banish 3 Earth cards.
Yeah, this card seems really good. 2 for 6 stat line is great. That's like fact finding mission, and putting an aura on the bottom of its owner's deck is really relevant here. There's going to be a whole bunch of auras. So embodiment of Earth, Lightning are both auras, and the
Rune chants.
the rune chants are auras, and then also the sigils in the set are auras. So yeah, even if it's like a 2 for 6 that gets you like 1 value, that's like already very good, and it could potentially be more than 1 in some scenarios. So I think Summer's Fall is just like fantastic, in addition to like progressing your game plan of getting your hero ability online.
Next card we'll talk about is Rootbound Carapace. This is a 0 cost defense reaction that blocks for 3. It says Decompose. You may banish 2 Earth cards and an action card from your graveyard. If you do, it gets +1 block value. So it's a 0 for 4 defense reaction once you get to Decompose.
Seems good. We saw Evasive Leap last set actually be pretty impressive and limited in decks that want to block. And this is at its worst an Evasive Leap that puts an Earth card into your discard or graveyard. And at best a 0 for 4 that progresses your game plan. That seems great. Also notably, most of the Earth cards are 2 blocks. This is one of the only 3 blocks. So super premium to be able to block for 3 and progress your game plan, because if you have to block for 2 a bunch to fuel your decompose, you're not going to be very happy.
Yeah. I think the 3 block on the Earth cards is going to be very important. And I guess I want to skip the sigil real quick to talk about Autumn's Touch, which is the next common on this set. Autumn Touch is the only Earth 3 block at common, at least as far as we know. And this is a 3 for 7 Earth action attack that also blocks for 3. No other land attacks. And I feel like Autumn Touch might be like a premium card that you want to be picking up for the Earth heroes once you know you're one of these, because if you need to decompose and activate your hero ability to win the game, if you're blocking for two too many times, you're gonna fall so far behind. But then if you block for three with Autumn's Touch, you can like stay in the game and actually just like be on par with these like aggro decks that are like trying to beat you down and decompose while you're at it. That seems really good.
Yeah. I mean, 3 for 7 block threes are like super, super premium. We saw that in heavy hitters, right? In particular. And this is classed, and you care about having the earth cards in your discard. So I agree. I think Autumn's Touch is going to be super, super good. At all pitches, honestly, like red and blue are probably the best ones, but you're still going to be very happy to pick yellow. I think. I think if you are, I think the best earth decks will have a higher density of 3 blocks, I guess.
Yeah, or 3 block earth cards.
Yes.
And the last rare to talk about will be Sigil Sanctuary. And as we just said, this is the 0 cost blue pitch earth instant. And it says Arcane Shelter 1. This is a new keyword. And this says if you would be dealt arcane damage, destroy this to prevent one of that damage. And this card also reads, when this leaves the arena, create an embodiment of earth token.
So notably, this will stay on the board until you take arcane damage, which does mean that this could be like a turn 0 play. I think most of the times for this to be really, really worth it, you're going to be wanting to block, like get the arcane shelter value and then block with multiple embodiments of earth, or multiple cards that give you the embodiment of earth value. But sometimes it's a little bit hard to do. So I could see this card being pretty good against the Rune Blades, where like maybe they have the Rune Chant coming in, and then you get to do the blocking afterwards, and you get to like figure out if you're going to do it beforehand. Yeah, I don't know.
This is actually the most interesting like card because like we don't have that many ways to prevent arcane so far. Sigil Sanctuary is like one of the only ways to prevent arcane, so
Yeah, that might just make it good enough. I'm not sure.
we don't know yet. I think that's where we're at.
It'll be something to keep an eye out. My gut says that you don't want too many of the sigils in general, but you can play some of them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Still is a no block because it's an instant, so that's kind of the liability.
Then we'll just move on straight away. It's Blossoming Decay is the next common. It's a 2 for 5 attack action that blocks for 2 and reads Decompose. When it attacks, you may banish 2. You know what? I'm gonna stop reading that line of text.
Yeah.
From now on, I'm gonna say Decompose, and then I'll just say the ability. So it'll be Decompose. If you do, gain 1 life. 2 for 5 that gains you a life.
So it's like a 2 for 6 stat line that lets you do the decompose thing. I think one thing that's going to be the case is you're going to want a mixture of the decompose cards and the non-decompose cards, because if you ever play this as a 2 for 5, that's going to feel pretty bad, and you're really going to wish that you played, I don't know, a 2 for 6 or a 3 for 7 instead, which there's lots of options of. We've just seen a whole bunch of them. And this is probably playable in both heroes if you need decompose, but this seems like more of a Verdance card than a Florian card, because once your hero text is online, it's a 2 for 7, right?
Yeah, once you can deal the 1 extra damage if you gain the life, then this card seems pretty decent in that deck. What I'm actually kind of wondering is maybe you want to pitch stack this. So maybe the yellow one is the one where you want it, where you get to go 2 for 4, deal 1 arcane, gain 1 life. That seems like the best stat line there, but I'm not sure either.
I do think the life gain is going to be pretty powerful with like there being arcane damage that you can't prevent in the set. It's like kind of like preventing arcane. So I don't know. I could see this card being good, but it strikes me as a little bit on the weaker end.
Next card is Cadaverous Tilling. It's a 3 cost 6 power earth action attack and blocks for 2. And it says Decompose. If you do, this gets +2 power. So ends up being a 3 for 8.
3 for 8 is a very good stat line, and it progresses your game plan. This seems like a premium decomposer, just like in general for both heroes, especially honestly, both of them, like the red and the blue. A blue 3 for 6 is like kind of nuts, and a red 2 card 8, super, super good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this card is gonna be. This is definitely the decompose card you're looking for more than Blossom and Decay, I think.
Yes, I think so. And I think even if you're a Verdance, that is the case. And what's nice about this one too is like if you play like a red 3 for 6 and like you like let's say you can't decompose, it's okay. It's not a disaster. Like, but the 2 for 5 feels bad.
No, but like 3 for 6 is like, you know what? I'm not unhappy.
Yeah. You play 3 for 6s all the time. Like think about your like yellow bastion when you swing that. It feels pretty good. So yeah, the floor on this card is also decent.
The next card that I want to talk about would be Fruits of the Forest, and this card actually is kind of exciting for me. So this card is a 3 cost for 7 at red and Earth action attack. It blocks for 2, but its ability is instant. Discard this, gain 2 life. And what's important is that this line of text, the gain 2 life, is the same for all the pitches.
Yeah, I think that this card's really, really, really good in both heroes, honestly, especially Verdance. But yeah, good stat line, and you have the ability to always like convert a bigger hand. Earth kind of has like a whole bunch of big attacks, so this having like sort of be like split card to go again that also like keeps you in the game longer, which seems like their heroes want to be doing, seems really good to me. It's also, we talked about Arcane being hard to deal with. Gaining life is a way to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is like the first time we'll talk about this, but if you are playing one of the wizards, just because your opponent is at lethal range doesn't mean that they're gonna die, because we have abilities that gain 2 life at instant speed, like Fruits of the Forest. And there are other ways to gain life in this set at instant speed, but this will be our first instance of it. So we'll talk about it now. Like, just because you can do 5 arcane and they're at 5, and if you just like go, take it all, deal 5 to you, you might get punished for it.
Yeah. We have Harvest Season. This is a 1 cost Earth action aura that blocks 2. It has Go Again, and at the beginning of your action phase, destroy this, gain 3 life. I think this card is a Florian card. It turns on Rotwood Reaper, which cares about creating an aura, and it's kind of like a 2-card 7. You play this, you swing the Rotwood Reaper for 4 off of a blue, so that's a 2-card hand. 4 not so good, but then you gain 3 on the next turn. Seems pretty reasonable to me.
Oh, so it's like pitch a blue, play this, attack for 4, so that's a
Yeah, attack
7.
for 4, gain 3 life. This is sort of like blocking 3. We talked about there like not being 3 blocks. This is sort of like an Earth 3 block that turns on your weapon in a roundabout way.
Interesting.
Like a delayed 3 block, because like I guess if you're at like lethal, it's like a little less good, but if it's earlier in the game, it's like pretty solid. And you can play this turn 0. I think Harvest Season pretty good.
Okay, yeah, it's a Florian card. It seems like, yeah, that makes sense. It says gain 3 life, so I guess you can still play it in Verdant. And
Yeah.
if you can deal the 1 damage after gaining 3 life, it's kind of okay.
Yeah, I guess if you have like 2 costs to pair with this, it seems really good. But Florian just having it on the weapon seems fantastic. Then we have Strong Yield, which is basically the same thing. A 1-cost Earth action aura that blocks for 2 and has Go Again. This one says at the beginning of your action phase, destroy this, and then your next attack gets +3. So I think a lot of things that we said about Harvest Season apply here. I generally think the life gain is a little more powerful than the attack damage, especially because it does force you to have an attack. The attack buff does work on your weapon, so that is a bit of an upside for Florian. But if your weapon's not online, it's like not great, because then you're doing like 4 into 5 off of 3 cards, which is like, I guess that's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, that's just on rate, I think.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I think the red strong yield's fine. Yeah, mostly because like Earth is gonna have some hard time getting the Go Again keyword, and these are the only cards in Earth that have Go Again, right? Other than the instance.
I don't think you want to play the yellows, and the blues are mostly just blue Earth cards, but yeah, the reds are decent, especially in Florian.
And the last Earth card to talk about will be Fertile Ground. And this is the Earth instant. It costs 2, and it says gain 2 life. If there are 4 or more Earth cards in your banish zone, instead gain 5 life. What do you think about this card?
So you can't play very many of these. It's a 2-cost instant that pitches for 1 at red, and you can't really like a 2 for 2. A 2-cost gain 2 is like terrible, right? A 2-cost gain 5 though is, I don't know if it's good, but it is a lot of life. That is a lot of life. So I could maybe see like a fatigue oriented deck that might want to play like maybe one of these.
Yeah, or like Florian, if once you have her ability online, and then this will be online, at least for limited, you get to go pitch a yellow, I guess, and play this, and you gain 5 deal ones. So it's like a 2 for 6. It's like, that's not bad.
Yeah, I don't think this card's great, but I don't think it's unplayable. You just probably don't want too many of them. It's just like it's pretty punishing when you don't have your hero ability online to have this card, and then like you kind of like are forced into arsenaling it, and then hoping you get value out of it later. But I could see some decks maybe that want to play this and want to play like a very long fatigue oriented game. And yeah, in those spots, maybe that's good. That this will protect you from arcane damage.
Yeah, that is true. We don't actually know how the gameplay is going to be like and how much arcane damage people can do. But if there's too much arcane, this card might be like, you might need it to like not die early.
Notably, the different colors all gain 2 as their base, and then the amount that you gain if you have 4 online goes down by 1. So the blue one is gain 2 or gain 3 if you have 4 or more Earth cards in the banish zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So that's all the Earth cards that's been spoiled so far. I know we're missing a couple of the Earth cards. I think it's just one playset or like one color cycle.
Yeah, I think one playset of commons or one cycle of commons, and that's about it.
So I guess we'll talk about the lightning equipment next.
Yeah, so first off, we have Flash of Brilliance. This is also a headpiece, lightning equipment headpiece, Blade Break 1. When this defends, you may discard a lightning card, and if you do, return an aura you control to its owner's hand. This effect is super interesting, and I think a lot of the times this is just going to be the Iron Rod Helm, but some of the time this card's going to be insane, and I think it's actually going to be like not that hard to trigger as you might think, because there are all of the sigils in the set, and the sigils tend to break at the start of your turn. So if you are somebody that's interested in playing a sigil, and then you block with this, you can then bounce that sigil. It goes into your hand, so you can play like potentially a 6-card hand on your following turn, and then also get the bonus of that sigil. So you can potentially have like a very, very big turn off of Flash of Brilliance. It's almost like if you go through the work of like playing the sigil, is almost kind of like a traverse in a weird way. Like it's not a chi, but like you do get like the blue in your hand if it's a blue sigil, which most of them are.
But you have to discard a lightning card to get the card back, right? So
Oh, you have to discard. Okay, so it's more like deep blue then.
yeah, this will be more like a deep blue where it can turn a red lightning card into like a blue pitch.
Gotcha. Okay, still pretty good. So this will be like some hand smoothing, and then also just Blade Break 1. So still very good.
I think at the very bare minimum, the Blade Break 1 is gonna be good in this set. And it looks like all the equipments in the set so far is pretty similar to that. Like they're worth about 1 point, so you should probably pick them up. Like even if you think the ability is blank.
Yeah, and I think it will be a little better than that, but especially because like Acilio kind of wants to play sigils to turn on his weapons, making his weapon free. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, then let's talk about the leg piece that's been spoiled, which is Twinkle Toes. It's very similar to the one that we saw for the Earth one. It says destroy this, prevent the next 2 damage that'll be dealt to you. Oh, sorry. Destroy this, prevent the next 2 damage that'll be dealt to you this turn. Activate this only if you played an instant card this turn. So the requirement's much easier than the Earth counterpart.
yeah, it's much easier assuming that you're playing sigils in your deck, because I don't know if there's many defensive instants. So, I mean, I guess like it does potentially like in a pinch let you play an instant and turn it into a 2-block, which is probably still okay. But ideally, I think you're playing a sigil and getting some value out of it.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think they're good, but probably not quite as premium as the Earth ones.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. We have Blast to Oblivion as our first rare. This is actually my spoiler card. This is a 0/4 lightning attack action that blocks for 2. And it says, when this attacks, the next time you play an instant card, this chain link, you may return target aura permanent with cost 1 or less, or target aura token to its owner's hand. 0/4 block 2 is just like a super playable stat line. It has the lightning text, which both heroes care about. And additionally, I think that we're going to see that instant speed stuff is sort of like part of Lightning's identity, I think. And being able to bounce your opponent's token is really good, but also I think in some spots being able to bounce your own sigil is going to be very, very powerful as well. So I think this card's like super exciting. I think this is like a CC staple, honestly, but I think it will be very, very powerful and limited too.
I think that's fair. So, do you think you're ever bouncing your own auras?
Yes, I do.
And why? What does that accomplish?
So I guess we can talk about the rare sigil of conductivity. This is a blue zero cost aura that's in lightning instant, and it has arcane shelter 1, and it says when this leaves the arena, create an embodiment of lightning token. So you could potentially like play a sigil of conductivity, use Aurora's ability to make an embodiment of lightning, play Blast to Oblivion, it gets go again. You can then bounce the sigil to your hand, and you either have a blue in your hand or you have a sigil that you can replay, all of those kinds of things. Or if you start the turn with an embodiment of lightning, like this is your blue to do your Aurora thing. So I think that you kind of get like a free embodiment out of it if you go through the hoops of doing that.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I think either way, Blast of Oblivion being like a zero cost for 4 already is like a fantastic stat line for the Lightning Heroes. So
Yeah. Also, Acilio's weapon, Volzar, gets amp X, where X is the number of lightning cards you played this turn. So if you like play a sigil, play a blast to oblivion, you have to find a way to give it go again. But like you play the blast to oblivion, play like I don't know some other lightning instant, bounce this, like you're potentially at like amp 3. If you replay the sigil, that's amp 4. Like it gets pretty out of control. So I think bouncing your sigils is potentially like pretty strong.
yeah, that's actually being able to like kind of build around the Blast of Oblivion might be important, and like saving this ability to be able to like as you said like amp 4, amp 5 that could close games pretty quickly. Okay, and then let's move on to our next rare. We have Lightning Form. Lightning 4 is a 1 cost for 5, and this is when this hits, create an embodiment of Lightning token. This is very similar to the Earth variant, but it only hits for 5. This card is. I don't know. I'm not sure how to feel about this card.
I think it's probably good. I feel like 1 for 5 has been a pretty good stat line just in general. I guess it doesn't necessarily like fit the curve of the heroes, so maybe that's a strike against it. But 1 for 5 with on hit seems pretty good. I think about like Zen playing Gravekeeping as basically just a blank 1 for 5 that blocks 2, and this is also a lightning card, which Acilio and Aurora care about, as well as a way to potentially get an embodiment of lightning. Seems good.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that like if you like pitch the blue and play this card, Aurora can make the embodiment of lightning already. Like multiple instances of embodiment of lightning doesn't actually stack that well. Getting multiple embodiment of lightnings feel kind of redundant, at least for Aurora.
Yeah, I think this gets more interesting if you like already have the go again on it in Aurora, because like it potentially like lets you go very very wide or end on an embodiment of lightning when you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. I think giving this card go again might be the secret to unlocking this card.
Yeah, and I think that lightning does have a number of ways to make embodiments of lightning that we'll see throughout the spoilers. We are missing a lightning rare as well, notably.
Yes, we are. Then we'll move on to the commons next. It'll be the first one's called Flittering Charge. This is a 0 for 4 lightning attack action, and it says if you've played an instant card this chain link, this gets to go again.
Notably, it does have to be this chain link, which is a little bit somewhat restricting. But yeah, 4 for 0 and potentially has go again. It seems decent. I think that there is like other better attacks than this one, but I still think it's like probably pretty playable at red just for the 4 for 0 stat line.
Yeah, and I think we talked about earlier in the episode that like you kind of just want to go like 0 for 4 weapon, 0 for 4 a bunch of times anyways. So like just having multiple copies of this will be kind of good in your deck just overall, right?
Yeah, and the play pattern that stands out for me to me with Acilio is just potentially getting some of these embodiments of lightnings with the earth with the lightning cards, playing a bunch of zero costs, and then like activating his weapon for free and playing a zap that's amped by however much 2 3. So I think Acilio will also be kind of like a lean zero cost aggro deck.
That makes sense. Next card, it's kind of my favorite templating of this set, I think. The card is called Fry. It has a lot of zeros on this, so it's a 0 cost for 3 go again, and it blocks for 0. Notably, it doesn't have a pearl on it, so you can't the weakest link this card, but yeah, it blocks for 0. It's kind of sweet.
I don't know how to evaluate this card. Lightning head jab?
I don't know either. I'm not impressed by it, is what I have to say.
It doesn't seem impressive, but I don't know. Maybe this is an Acilio card because it's like kind of like a 0 for 4 with the buff to your weapon. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, once you get to use your weapon and like amp for more, the free go again is free. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it is the only attack that has just like natural go again in the lightning pool. So there's a lot of things that like can get go again, but this one just like naturally has it. So maybe that's worth something. Who knows?
Fair enough. Next, we have 2 reprints coming. We have Heaven's Claws, which is a 1 for 5 lightning attack action that blocks for 3 with no other text. Yeah, this was fine. Last
I think
time,
this card's probably still pretty good.
yeah.
All the other lightning cards block for 2, Fry blocks for 0. There seems to be like a little bit of a playing instance theme and instance block for 0. So like I don't know, the 3 block might be pretty nice.
Yeah, I think if you do pick it, you're looking at the 3 block more than the offensive value on this card.
The stat line's fine, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What was the? There was a 1 cost 5 power for 3. What is that card called? Critical Strike.
Yeah, it's lightning critical strike. Pretty good.
Yeah, that card was honestly very impressive in that set. So I guess it's like kind of similar.
Yeah. I think the Heaven's Claws, especially the red and the blue, will be pretty good. Next we have Lightning Surge. This is like I love this card. This is a 0 for 4 lightning action attack that blocks for 2, and if it's played from Arsenal, it gets go again. This is like a pretty easy clause for getting go again. So I think like of the conditional 4 for 0 go agains that we've seen, this is like one of the premium ones. Yeah, I think it's very easy to see how this fits into Aurora and Acilio. And if you have the embodiment of lightning, you can just play it out. You can end on it. You can arsenal it for next turn. Just a great card.
Yeah, this card's just good. It was good before. It's good now. I think. Yeah, I think this card's gonna be premium. Notably, this won't come in foil in this set, so it's gonna be a little bit less frequent than the other cards.
Mm-hmm.
So next card will be Second Strike. This is a 0 cost for 3 lightning attack action that blocks for 2, and it says when this attacks, if you've dealt damage this turn, it gets +1 power and go again.
I think this is pretty good. I'm not sure. Like, man, when this card's bad, it's going to be really bad. Is what I have to say about it. Like when you're playing a 0 for 3 that doesn't have go again, you're like really, really, really sad. The lightning heroes are like pretty aggressive, and like they both have some ability to deal arcane. I guess like Acilio doesn't deal arcane with go again. I don't know. I could see it. I'm not sure. You don't want a bunch of these, I don't think, but like when it's online, it's good. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if you can reliably turn it on, it's good.
Yeah, it feels kind of like if you have a really good lightning aggressive deck that hits a whole bunch of breakpoints, you could play like one of these to supplement it, but you wouldn't want to you don't want to like draft a lightning deck with a bunch of these.
Yeah, I think as the name states, Second Strike, like if you have too many Second Strike and nothing to hit first, your deck's gonna collapse.
Yeah, and this is probably a little nicer, and this probably fits like a little easier into Aurora, where like your weapon can also turn it on. Like maybe you have like a rune chant to deal an arcane damage somewhere. Like I think in Acilio, this card seems kind of sketchy.
Yeah, it looks like a seeded card for Aurora. Okay, next card will be Trip the Light Fantastic. Did I say that name right? That did not sound right.
Yeah, you did. Apparently, this is some sort of saying. I already forgot what it means, but somebody else had this reaction to this card. Is like, what is this name? And apparently, it's just like a saying.
Huh. Trip the Light Fantastic.
Maybe I'll look it up. Trip the Light Fantastic is to dance nimbly or lightly to music, apparently.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did not know that.
I also didn't know this until someone pointed it out to me, but fun fact.
So this is a 1 cost for 5 power lightning action attack, and it says instant discard this, prevent the next 2 damage that'll be dealt to you this turn. Sweet. Kind of like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems pretty good. You can't. So, and the thing that we were talking about like they can gain life in response to your arcane damage. They can also prevent it with this card. So I think that no matter what you're against, if you're a wizard and you're hoping to get them with like Exacxes on your arcane damage, like just be aware that like every hero in the set has ways to stop that. And I think the blue of this honestly seems like super super sweet. The red's probably fine too. It's still a 1 for 5, but the blue seems fantastic.
Yeah, this card's interesting. I don't think we have any attack reactions other than the card we're gonna be talking about very soon. No, actually, I'm just thinking about how like if this card is like ever good on rate, and I'm like, yeah, I guess the blue one. If you think of this card as like a defense reaction, it's kind of okay.
Yeah,
It's okay. I think this card still just being able to attack for like as a one cost for 5 is what makes this card pretty decent, right?
that's its primary mode. I think it's like fine. My guess is that this is probably on average not as good as Heaven's Claws, but you might want some blues to like be able to deal with arcane damage.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so next card is a reprint again. It's called Flash. This is a lightning action, and it says the next action card you play this turn with cost 0 or more gets go again. And this is for the red one. And the yellow one will look for a card that's cost 1 or more, and the blue one will look for a card that's cost 2 or more. I was not impressed with this card when it first got printed. I don't know if it looks good in this set either.
It seems bad to me. Well, I guess it is the next action card. So I guess Acilio can use this to give spells go again. I still
Yeah.
don't know if that's good because most of the spells are under rate, but maybe.
Like, yeah, that's what I was gonna say is like you could go like play Flash, play like a one cost like Scalding Rain type effect, and then amp it as well, right? So then you can do like a 1 4 6 and then end with like another zap or something like that. So like you can do some like unblockable damage or very hard to block damage, like and like a lot of it with Flash, but like I don't know if that's good.
Yeah, I also don't know if it's good. Before was like slightly more interesting because like you had Rosetta Thorn and you wanted to do like non-attack attack and then Rosetta Thorn and like Flash kind of let you do that. So you could do like Flash 2 for 6, Rosetta Thorn, and that was like I don't know if it was like good, but it was like okay. Like Rosetta Thorn carried a lot of weight to making this card like kind of playable in Briar, and you didn't play it at all in Lexi. But like we don't have incentives for playing non-attack actions, so yeah, I'm really not sure about Flash. It seems probably not great.
I think this card is pretty good. It's electrostatic discharge, a 0 cost lightning instant, and it says the next attack action card you play this turn costs with cost 1 or less gets +3 power. And then yellow one will buff for 2 power. Will buff for 2 power, and the blue one will buff 1 power. And they all look for a cost 1 or less. Notably, this card will buff any card with cost 1 or less, so it doesn't actually have to be a lightning card that it buffs. And we were saying earlier that like you had to play a lightning card to make some of these cards work, like Blast to Oblivion or Fittering Charge. This will be the primary instant that you would want to play, so they get their abilities.
Yeah, notably, you still do need another attack action card to play after it to get the value of it. So it does like kind of require you to go wide. But yeah, I think it's pretty solid. You can also just play it before as like a 0 for 3 buff if you really need to.
Yeah, it's always a minnowism, right?
Yeah, it's always at least a minnowism, and then like essentially like a nimbleism maybe is a better comparison. But and it's like a lightning card, but then you can potentially get some extra value out of it. I think it's pretty solid. I like this more than Flash.
Yes, by a lot.
Unless you have to block, then no good.
Fair enough. And I guess the last lightning card that we have so far is Sigil Lightning. And this is a sigil, so it doesn't block, cost 0, it's a blue pitch. And at the beginning of your action phase, it destroys it. and when this leaves the arena, create an embodiment of lightning token. So we talked earlier about the sigil of conductivity. You can do very similar stuff with this card as well. It kind of I'm pretty sure it's just kind of seated in here, so then like you still get to make sure you get to do the small combo lines that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. And notably, like the Sigil of Lightning is an instant, so it works with like your Blast to Oblivion and your other cards as well. So it has some synergy there. So like we didn't see that many like lightning instants, but there are some, there are like other sigils in the set as well. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that was all of the Earth and Lightning cards that were spoiled, at least to date. And we are recording on August 28th for those that are wondering. Any thoughts about any of the Earth or Lightning cards so far, or any of the heroes in particular before we wrap up?
I'm kind of curious to see how this set plays. The Earth cards seem really good. You get to gain life, you get big giant attacks. Imagine attacking with like the two card 8, the 3 for 8, Cadaverous Tilling, and you're attacking like an Acilio who's playing all these like 2 blocks and no blocks. Like they're gonna be sad.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if they're blocking you.
I don't think they are, but like 8 damage is a lot of damage. I don't know. Yeah, the lightning heroes seem they. I think that they can probably do some pretty explosive stuff, but man, you are like pretty fragile.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the difference, right? Like, at least so far, we've only looked at the Earth and Lightning cards, but just comparing the Earth and Lightning cards, the Earth card seems to be more powerful, but then the Earth heroes just they don't have hero abilities until later in the game. And the Lightning heroes card seems a little bit less powerful, but they have hero abilities that makes that kind of like supplements the lower power level in these cards.
Yeah, you also get go again like reasonably well, so you can do the aggro deck thing, and I guess like a lot of the class cards are 3 blocks. We've seen that a lot in talented sets, that most of the talented cards are 2 blocks, and this is no exception. So it's not like you're limited to only playing lightning or earth cards, I suppose. But yeah, I do think that Acilio in particular, like 18 life, you're playing instants and 2 blocks. Scary.
Well, you get to always cycle away your instance to try and draw a 3 block, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Pretty curious to see how this set plays. I think that there's like some very cool stuff going on here. I like that. I like that there's like a lot of synergy, I guess, between the cards where it feels like cards fit well. Like even though they're like go into 2 heroes, they might fit better into one hero than the other. The Earth really has to balance like ways to get Earth cards into their discard that is reasonable with the Decompose cards that turn on their hero ability, and then the Lightning is like you need go again plus ways to give your other stuff go again, and maybe you have this like instance matters theme that you can draft around. So I think that's like all very very cool. It seems like there's going to be like little, I guess, like little groups of synergy, kind of like we saw in Mistvale, which I think honestly like adds a lot to the set.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, okay. I think you kind of wrapped that up pretty well. I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah, that's going to be a wrap. Thanks for listening. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do so on social media. Jay is at UedaJ over on Twitter, and I'm at Yukili Bender. You can email us directly at onthebobble@gmail.com as well. If you want to check us out on Patreon, we are at patreon.com/onthebobble. And I guess we forgot to do our Patreon shout out, but thank you so much to all of our patrons as well as all of our listeners. We really, really appreciate you tuning in. And, hopefully this will help you kind of think about the set and the cards in terms of limited and kind of get you ready for either the world premiere or pre-release, depending on, what you're planning to play. All right. Thanks for listening. See you all next week.
I kind of just wanted to talk about. So I'm not actually going to the world premiere anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the big reason is because my passport is expiring this week, and I got I went to the passport office to renew it, and they told me I will get it on like the 9th, September
Unlucky.
9th, which means that it won't have the passport for 6, 7, and 8, which the world premiere is on. So I can't go to Tampa because I'm stuck in my own country.
Mm,
Oh.
that is unfortunate. I will be going to Tampa. I'm leaving. I'm actually leaving. No, not tomorrow. I'm leaving Friday, so in 2 days. But I'm going to Dallas and then flying from Dallas to Tampa and spending a bit of time in Dallas. But yeah, looking forward to Tampa. It should be very exciting. And you know what? I haven't been playing that much Flesh and Blood. I'm excited to sink my teeth into a new limited format. This format honestly looks pretty interesting. I don't know about you, but I think it looks pretty sweet. And oh, we also heard that there's going to be changes to Zen. They're going to ban cards from Zen. So who knows?
What?
Maybe some of these cards will be playable in CC as well.
Wait, what? When did the announcement come out?
Well, I guess there's not like an announcement, but on Twitter, Brian Gottlieb said, "Let me hang on. Let me bring it up so I don't want to
Butcher it.
like say that he said something and then he didn't actually say that. He said this is on August 27th. He said just wanted to check in the interest of getting everyone back to enjoying preview season. Zen is too strong in every format. We are aware and have been for a while, which means we've been hard at work on solutions. Zen isn't going to overshadow Rosetta. We're all aligned." So I guess he doesn't say that there are bans, but we have a BNR coming up right after set release, and he basically said Zen's gonna get some kind of bans.
Okay, awesome,
We
sweet.
don't know what they are, but something, which I think is good. Honestly, I've been a little bit tired of Zen.
No. The easiest way to nerf Zen is just say he has no headpiece and he has no leg piece. He just like can't equip those pieces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like because like
Errata
yeah, just errata. He doesn't have legs and head.
makes sense.
Then I think he'll be like super fair, right? Like
He would be pretty bad, I think, but yeah. He certainly wouldn't be dominating formats, that's for sure.
yeah, honestly, like the whole reason why that deck is like so dominant is because of strides and traverse. And if they don't have strides or traverse, like the deck's bad, right?
Yeah, I think so. Think about how bad the deck is, like once your equipment's used. Like if the Zen uses their equipment and they like somehow don't get that ahead from it, it's like
Well, it's still
it's
not bad, right? Because
it's not bad, but it's not like good.
Like Fi and Katsu still exist, and they don't have that leg piece or the head piece, right? So like,
Yeah, I
it's it's
suppose.
it's mainly traverse. Like traverse is a problem card.
Yeah, I agree. Traverse and strides are obvious problem cards. I think Art of War also pretty broken. Traverse would be fine if there was no Art of War, honestly.
I don't know if that's true because like, man, have you seen Enigma play with traverse? Like, it is not fair. Have you seen New that plays
Sorry,
traverse?
stride would be okay without Art of War, is what I meant to say.
Oh yes,
They can
you're
like bottom their Tiger to E strike, but like that's fine. That's fine.
yeah, that's actually kind of fair,
Yeah,
ish.
it's like good, but I don't think it's like breaking the game. But when you like use that to fuel your Art of War and just like turn it into like draw a card, it's like okay. And it's not just draw cards, draw a card on your Art of War turn.
Yeah, that's fair.
um, yeah. Anyways, I don't know. We're not the devs for this game, but they seem to be on it. I trust LSS to, figure out the right ban. I think generally they've had a pretty good track record of banning cards in ways that are impactful, but also don't completely kill the deck. So I fully expect this to be kind of the same. That Zen will probably still be in the metagame, probably still be reasonable, but not. I think they were hoping that would be the case with Bonds, but yeah, Bonds was clearly not enough. But
No, clearly not
I don't know.
enough.
I think this time around they will hopefully nail it.
They have
They
more
certainly
time
have
this
had some
time.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, another cool way that they could change Zen will be if they restrict the number of cheese you can put into Zen.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool if they just said like you can only have 4 cheese in your deck?
Yeah, that would make them a lot more fair.
It would make him significantly more fair. And what's cool is that if you still like draw the chi early, you still get to do his broken things. So like you get to really have those games that are like, how is this deck fair? And then now you have more fair games of like, I can't find my transcend card for 5 turns. What do I do?
Yeah.
That's a cool change. If you're listening to this, someone from LSS, consider that too. Okay. Okay, then. I think we'll just wrap it up here. Good night, everyone.
Good night.